Hi. Um, I think I'm going to go smaller grained somehow this time. I'm going to look at small chunks. I'm interested in the fact that Beardy the Scarecrow has a body that's made of corn. I'm interested in the fact that the Great Mighty Pooh can only consume corn, sweet corn, into his belly. I'm interested in the way the catfish guide you into the vault, and someone, the catfish who guides you, wears glasses and exhibits a usage of these glasses that's shown to be mainly made for looking and staring at things carefully. You know, when she needs the glasses, it's because she needs to look carefully at something. And then inside the vault, you find these other fish that have a big eye in the center of their body as well. So you have two types of fish that have big eyes, or the eye as emphasized. I'm interested in the fact that windmills are places where you can grind grain, and that in the Bat's Tower episode there is a millstone of some kind, which would be the object necessary for doing that. Okay, these are really messy topics, so I'm not really sure where to go from here. But there are other things I'm interested in. Here's one of them. The Haybot. When the Haybot dies, we get a close-up of one of its eyes shooting up towards us, towards the screen. And then, in the boiler room scene, we get a similar sort of event. When the boiler explodes, the grid on its mouth shoots towards us in a similar sort of way. Both objects shoot towards us, towards the screen. I also want to suggest something about this that I'm interested in. It doesn't necessarily mean it has anything, of interest in it. Anyway, I'm interested in it. I don't know what it means, but I'm interested in how these two objects are a mouth, the grid on the boiler, and an eye, the eye on the Haybot. Okay, the objects that decorate the metallic mechanical fishes in the vault are also simultaneously a mouth and an eye. And specifically, the eye that's inside the mouth of these fishes, the eye that's on these fishes, seems to be basically the same eye as the eye on the Haybot. It's this sort of greenish, yellowish surface with a dot in the middle. It seems to me that it's the same design, or at least very, very similar. They seem like the same eye, basically. So I'm interested in this combination of a mouth and an eye simultaneously. You've got a mouth, you've got an eye. Once again, the waters get murky here, and I'm not sure what I'm wanting to say or trying to say. So we need to find something, perhaps. Dracula? Can I say something about Dracula? He has a big mouth full of blood. Does that mean anything? Okay, he has a mouth. Oh, well, this doesn't mean anything, but okay, there is something I'm interested in regarding bats. Bats look at things differently. They can't see with their eyes. Whenever there's a bat in the game, they comment on the fact that they can't see anything. They don't use their eyes to see things. They use their radar, which I suppose is another way of saying their ears. They use their ears to see. So whenever they try, it's as if, well, that is just a statement, I want to say, basically. They look with their eyes, but they don't see with their eyes. They're seeing with their ears. So there's like a sensory mismatch. They're seeing with a different sense that isn't the sense of sight, of seeing, if that makes sense. They're seeing with a different sense, yeah. With a sense that isn't seeing, that is something different. Okay, once again, waters are getting murky, so we need to explore. What are we going to find down there? Something about the vampire again? Okay, let's go back to the vampire. So the vampire sees as well with sonar, with radar. There's some way in which the vampire is seeing with his sense of sight that operates via a non-sight way. His sense of sight is not the same as the sense of sight of other people. He sees things in a completely different way. In fact, we're shown how him and all the other bats see things upside down, and then those upside down things get turned around. As if to say, first of all, you see, well, I don't want to say what it is saying, okay? I'm just interested in the fact that it's turned around. The vision is turned upside down. That's how they're seeing things. And then that vision gets turned around whenever they see things correctly. I'm interested also, for example, in how at the beginning of the game, Berry can't hear you. Her hearing is impaired because of the music she is listening to. So she doesn't hear you speaking as you're speaking to her. And then simultaneously, you, Conker, can't see her. You're speaking, but you're not. Neither of you is seeing or hearing. But I feel as if what impairs Conker, the reason you're having to use the phone, is because you're not seeing her. This next one maybe is a bit weird, but I think that in the nighttime section, there is a predilection for a certain kind of enemy. The kind of enemies that appear in the nighttime section are enemies that appear suddenly. They're invisible, they're hidden, and then suddenly they appear. So they're hidden under earth, both the teddies and the zombies, and then they appear. Hi. Okay, I'm here again. I feel tempted to give nuance to something I said earlier. I said the Great Mighty Pooh can only eat corn. Of course, that's not true. I mean, the Great Mighty Pooh presumably can eat anything he wants. He might even be shown to eat beetles, even though it's not clear what he does with the beetles that he steals or kidnaps. But he does possibly eat them, and maybe, eat a lot of other kind of stuff. Because by his own admission, it's not that corn is what he eats, is that corn is what survives. Sweet corn is the only thing that makes it through my rear. So obviously a reference to how sweet corn seems to behave in the digestive process. So sweet corn stays inside of him. Everything else would probably be disintegrated, die, what would you say? Be digested. So sweet corn is not digested. I think that's important. In relation to that, but slightly sort of at a diagonal, I want to go back to the scarecrow, Beardy. because, again, Beardy has this big stomach full of corn with the words corn written on it. So corn is in his stomach. And we could say several things about this. It's, it's kind of silly or trivial maybe, but you could say that it's undigested, since it's literally just raw, unprocessed corn inside of his stomach, like inside a bag that represents his stomach. So it just represents his stomach. Corn is just sitting in there. There's no digestion to speak of, so it's just raw corn, raw undigested corn in his stomach. I don't know, maybe that's not just as trivial as I thought. There might be something to that. But in any case, what I wanted to focus on is the fact that he is characterized as a drunken scarecrow. That's like his motif. And he's shown to be burping and farting. I don't know if he burps actually, but he drinks. In the first section, he drinks several bottles of beer, falls asleep. His pattern of speech, I think, is trying to emulate the patterns of speech of someone who's really drunk, like, like he's sort of slightly dazed and confused and kind of wobbly as well. Like he's swaying from side to side. This act of swaying from side to side is, shown to be, I think, an icon of being drunk. Anyway, who cares about that? But so let's say he's drunk, right? The way Conker is when he gets drunk, he does this swaying thing as well. So what to say about that? Well, it just hits me that beer is basically corn. Well, it's not corn, but it's wheat. Or you can make beer out of corn. It's rare, I suppose. But I'm interested in the fact that he's drinking something that's basically ground, what would you call it? Wheat, or more generically, grain. I suppose any type of grain. I'm making myself a little sort of, permission here, which we don't necessarily need to make, but I'm going to be very general and say that this is about grain in general. Here, having said all this, we may enter into slightly more vague terrain, if this wasn't vague enough, because I want to talk about the nighttime section again. The zombies and the teddies. I would say you could characterize them both as being sort of empty beings in some way, because a zombie is just a sack of flesh, so to speak, that's still alive for some unknown reason, but that you could claim a zombie shouldn't be alive. So it's a sack that shouldn't be alive. That's what I would claim. And I would claim that the teddies are more or less the same thing. It's a sack of cloth in this case, so it's not of flesh and bones, but it's a sack of cloth that really shouldn't be alive. It's a doll. It shouldn't be alive, and yet it's alive. Having said this thing about describing them as a doll, I do want to go for a second to the issue of Poppet, the little girl. I don't know if her official name is Poppet. I seem to see this name around. This may just be a name given to her in the fan community. I'm not really sure. Actually, is it worth checking? No, I don't think it's worth checking. Let's just leave it at that. So, she is a little girl who is, in any case, sort of used as a puppet, serves as a puppet. Like, her function is like a puppet that sits on top of a hand that carries her. So she is a puppet on top of the hand of someone behind her who's carrying her. And so you could say, why does a puppet made of cloth exist? Why is it still alive? Well, because there's a hand inside of it that's operating the machinery from within, so to speak. I'm not sure if anything will come out of that, but I just felt like maybe that was worth saying. Let's go back to the issue of puppets, just in the sense of the teddies in general. All these nighttime creatures are like empty bodies that for some reason are alive. Also, maybe to add some more sort of context to that puppet thing, of course, she is simultaneously like a puppet, like a doll, like it seems to evoke that idea, like a hand puppet. But at the same time, she is literally like a dead human being, well, a dead squirrel that is being used as a puppet. So it's as if she's simultaneously undead, a zombie, so it's a living fleshy body that has come alive for some reason, and evokes also a cloth doll, such as the teddies are, like teddy bears. So it simultaneously grabs these two nighttime creature archetypes, kind of, and combines them into one. Oh, here's another thing I wanted to say, but maybe it's a little silly, which is the imps, the fire imps, are inside the big machine, and they're sitting presumably inside of its mouth. So you would assume that they're at the controls, they're controlling the machine, right, from within. But you would assume that they're looking out through its mouth.